Today, a court in Paris found far-right leader Marine Le Pen guilty of embezzling funds from the European Union. She is now a convicted criminal. Will that label hurt her chances in the next presidential election in 2 years? Well, we will probably never know. The judge today banned Le Pen from running for political office for the next 5 years. For her and her National Rally Party, the timing could not be worse. The polls put her in a strong position to become France's next president. Marine Le Pen was poised for victory, poised to radically change her country, but not anymore. I'm Brent Goff in Berlin. This is The Day. We begin the day in France with a politician poised for power, now paralyzed in place. Today, a court in Paris found the far-right leader, Marine Le Pen, guilty of embezzlement. And the judge brought Le Pen's 2027 presidential hopes to a screeching halt, banning her from running for public office for the next 5 years, effective immediately. Le Pen's attorney says that his client plans to appeal, but it is unlikely that the appeal will change today's ruling before the next presidential election. Le Pen and 24 other members of her National Rally Party, they were found guilty of illegally using EU funds for party activities, including paying the salaries of party officials. For a party that had promoted itself and its leader as the honest alternative to the establishment, today's ruling counts as a major blow to credibility.
It's the worst-case scenario for Marine Le Pen. The leader of the far-right National Rally Party is barred from running for office for 5 years. Le Pen and other party members were found guilty of diverting more than 4 million euros of European Parliament funds to pay their own staff. She was sentenced to 4 years in jail, 2 suspended and 2 under house arrest. The court said Le Pen was at the heart of the scheme. One of the prosecutors said her refusal to take accountability led to their decision.
There was a systematic denial of what had happened at the time, and I have the impression that the court took this attitude into account by saying, since you are in total denial, the court believes there is a risk of reoffending. And therefore, the sentence barring her from office will be enforced right away. And that's that.
Le Pen's lawyer says she's being punished for defending herself in court.
The judge said that because Ms. Le Pen exercised her right to mount a defence by, for example, arguing for a statute of limitations, which is the starting point for any defence, there was a risk she might reoffend. It's totally, completely unbelievable.
C'est totalement, absolument incroyable.
After the verdict, Le Pen headed to her party's headquarters, where she was joined by Jordan Bardella, the president of the National Rally. He criticized the ruling on X, writing, "Today it is not just Marine Le Pen who is being unjustly condemned. It is French democracy that is being executed." The National Rally won the most seats in Parliament in last year's election. Polls have put Le Pen as the frontrunner for the presidency in 2027. Now, her only chance of standing on the ballot is a successful appeal before the elections.
And for more, now I'm joined by Cole Stangler. He's a freelance journalist based in Marseille in the south of France. Cole, it's good to have you with us again. Marine Le Pen, I understand, just addressed the nation on television, and it sounded like a scathing indictment of the court and what the court did today.
That's right. Thanks for having me. You know, Marine Le Pen, in that interview on national television, said that the court was guided by politics, that this was a political decision. She also said without justification that the judge wants to prevent her from running for president, and that's why she issued the ruling, again, without justification. She also contested one of the underlying pieces of legislation that enabled this ruling to take place. So a lot of mischaracterization of French law. And she also critically suggested that from her point of view, it's not impossible for her to potentially run again in 2027. That would depend, of course, on her filing an appeal, and a judge ruling with her. So she refused to say that she's definitively out of the running in 2027.
So technically, she may not be out of the running, but I mean, she's running against time, right? The clock is not working in her favor. Have I understood that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct. It'd be still very difficult. She acknowledged that too. It'd be difficult for her to imagine you have to have the basically 18 months to 2 years to play its way through the courts. And as we know, the presidential election in France in 2027 is really within 2 years' time. So it'd be coming down to the wire. There's speculation about Jordan Bardella, the young 29-year-old president of the RN, the National Rally Party, potentially replacing her as candidate. Le Pen didn't really give much indication about kind of passing the torch to Bardella, although many have been speculating about that.
Marine Le Pen, she is among France's highest profile politicians. She's one of the world's best known politicians. And today a court basically yanked her out of the running for a position that the polls show she had a good chance of winning in 2 years. Talk to me about how significant this ruling is. And have you ever seen anything like this in France before?
I mean, it's obviously a significant ruling for the reasons you just mentioned. She is actually the front runner right now if you look at the polls for 2027. So it's significant by that standard, but it also needs to be put in context. And a lot of people are weighing into this, tweets from Elon Musk. We saw the Russian government weighing into this. It should be recalled that actually there is a tradition, regrettable one, but of French politicians actually being found guilty of embezzlement, even more high-profile politicians. So you think back to former President Jacques Chirac, former Prime Minister Alain Juppé, both found guilty for embezzling public funds from the city of Paris to help support their conservative political party. So there's that. There's also a long tradition of actually politicians being found guilty in France. That's one aspect that's important to note. Secondly, there's this law change in 2016 and 2017 that basically enabled the judge to make this decision. It should be also pointed out that in the French civil law tradition, judges are applying the law. They're not interpreting necessarily the law, they're applying the law. And as a result of this law change in 2016 and 2017, politicians who are found guilty of embezzlement should be barred from running for public office. So the judge is applying that decision. Now, there's a final important nuance of this that should be pointed out, which is that when the judge decided to make that ruling apply immediately, that's the case for Le Pen. It applies even as before she files her appeal. The judge decided that because the RN was not taking the allegations against it seriously enough, and because of the gravity of the case, because of these conditions, it was important to make the ruling apply immediately. So it's really important to emphasize the context here. There's a tradition of French politicians being found guilty of embezzlement. And there's actually other politicians, too, since this law change in 2016, that have been barred immediately from running for office. There's the former president of French Polynesia, former mayor of Toulon, and others.
I mean, it sounds like what you're saying is the judge definitely made an example out of Marine Le Pen today. If she takes up this narrative of being a victim here, is that going to play well in the court of public opinion, do you think?
Yeah, there's of course also the kind of political ramifications, of course, beyond the sort of legal questions here. It's probably too soon to say. I think we have to look to see maybe what polls say about the French people reacting. It should be stressed again that the French public is actually accustomed to politicians being found guilty. Of course, of various corruption cases. Of course, we're in a kind of different political moment today. There's also, of course, the parallels with what we've seen with Donald Trump in the United States. This idea that the judges and the courts are out to get these right-wing, far-right populist politicians. So Le Pen potentially could be benefiting from that. I think another important point to stress is that her party is already winning the battle of ideas, so to speak. Her party is faring well, and many observers have pointed out there's a strong case to be made that even without Le Pen as the head, as the top candidate in 2027, that the RN is in a pretty good position already to compete for the presidency.
How do you think that her ineligibility for office, how is that going to affect the entire political landscape? I mean, do you think that her party is going to be strengthened by this and that 2027 is actually going to look better for the party than they would have said just 24 hours ago?
I mean, it's a very good question, and I think time will tell. We'll have to see how various political actors react. It has been interesting to see the reactions of other politicians from across the political spectrum. You have kind of the mainstream left, center left parties that have said, this is just the French. These are judges who are applying the law, who've applauded the ruling. What's interesting is you already actually have some. So the Prime Minister, François Bayrou, saying that he was troubled by this ruling, which could actually legitimize potentially this idea that the judges are overstepping their bounds. That's the narrative that Marine Le Pen and the RN is pushing. You also have the head of the left wing, La France Insoumise party, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who's saying he disagrees with the decision to bar Marine Le Pen from running. So when you have other sort of actors in the French political system besides the National Rally that are giving credibility to this idea that the judges have struck a blow, so to speak, against French democracy, that could potentially legitimize her claims. But of course, you have others who've said essentially that judges are simply applying the law. So it's probably too soon to say, but it's obviously going to be a huge question in French politics over the coming months.
Definitely. Journalist Cole Stangler with the latest from Marseille tonight. Cole, we appreciate your reporting. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.